introduced into a cage. And basically, there was a ladder in the middle of the cage. And there was a hatch on top of the ladder in the middle of the cage. And every morning, they had this routine where they'll be opening the hatch, introducing a bunch of bananas on the top of the ladder. And the monkey, naturally, he'll be climbing up to grab the bananas, and automatically there'll be sprinklers of water going off with a high pressure cold water. And they'll be making the monkey completely feeling uncomfortable. And that kept continuing for days and days and days, until after a week, the monkey decided that he doesn't want to even climb to get the ladder, because he got conditioned to stay in the corner without going to grab the banana. After a week, they introduced another monkey. The first monkey stayed in the corner in the morning. In the morning, they opened the hatch, dangled a bunch of the banana. The second monkey naturally was climbing up. And as the monkey was climbing up, he was obviously getting, drained by water. So eventually what ended up happening, that this monkey stopped going up because of the same concept. The guy was feeling cold and he was really kind of drained by the water. So the third week, they did the same thing, introduced a third monkey. But this time, when they are dangling the banana, the third monkey is trying to climb up. The two monkeys that were there, they were grabbing that monkey and they were grabbing him down and beating him up, because they don't want to have that experience. They don't want to have the experience of being drained and experiencing the cold water. So what ended up happening is that they kept doing this for every morning, and the third monkey got conditioned not to go and grab the banana, but he doesn't even know why. Interesting enough, after that, they started replacing the initial two monkeys. So they replaced the first monkey that was introduced, and the same thing, that new monkey that was replaced trying to grab the banana, and the two monkeys were grabbing him down and beating him up. Eventually, all of the monkeys that were in the cage were completely new, and they didn't know why they were not able to go up and grab the banana. All what they know that the conditioning is for them not to do that. So that was the culture and the tradition that was created in that box.
Yeah, very interesting. So if you would ask the monkeys why they do this, they would not even can give you an answer, right? Why they are not carrying the bananas.
This is what we have been told always. This is what we have been told. So let's talk about the lean thinking model that you want to share with everyone, with your expertise about lean thinking. And the interesting part is how we're going to be linking that lean thinking model to us, to our everyday life, to our personal development.
Yeah, lean thinking. I think maybe you would mean that I'm a nutritionist and I'm taking care about diets. So for sure I'm not. If I would do this, I would start on my own first. So, but on some ways, I'm trying to reduce overweight, but in the production environment. So this is my job, and I'm trying to explain you that in a very simple way what I'm doing. So, for example, if you want to buy a car, hopefully a Mercedes, this car needs to be produced. So this production process, from the beginning to the end, we measure with and call it lead time. So practically the blue line stands for the lead time in the process. So just imagine if we could shorten this lead time, produce the car much faster, in the end, you will get the same car, pay the same price, and get the same quality for sure from the car, but we would have just reduced some processes, some unnecessary processes, so to say, the overweight. So if we talk about overweight in production, we talk about non-value add. So this is one of the obstacles, and to explain non-value add, I can do this, for example, with transportation. If we could reduce the time to bring the parts to the production, we would impact the lead time. So we would, for example, get the supplier very closer to the factory. And by the way, we would also save the environment because we would have less transportation. Another obstacle what we have from the overweight example is inflexibility. Just imagine you order a car, a convertible, a very nice one, sporty, 2 seats. Sometimes maybe you can already feel the wind in your hair. And then you decide to go for a SUV. And we as a company tell you, no, you cannot change your order, because now we are producing convertibles. SUVs will produce later this year. For sure, this is not possible. So you would not wait. So we as a production, we need to be capable to react on every customer need immediately. This is called, if we cannot do this, it's inflexibility. The third obstacle is variability. So imagine if we produce today an X amount of cars in our factory, and the next day we produce just 5 times less. So we would never meet customer demand. We would never give you the right date when you can get your car. So this is from this perspective very not acceptable from the customer. This is why we have standardized processes that we can always have a consistent production. So if we eliminate all these 3 obstacles and have a flexible production system, only value-add activities, and a consistency in our production, this would be the ideal state. We call this the North Star. So in this case, we would be very profitable. And you will get the same product. It will not change anything from your side. You will get the same car, same quality, everything, but we would just reduce our overweight. For sure, this is not something which we can do overnight. So if you put it in a formula, it will be like on the right side of the slide. So this is a day-to-day process. It's a lean thinking model, and it's a continuously improving and changing and going towards the North Star.
Very interesting, and thanks for sharing that with us, Drasko. I have had involvement in that back in the days when I used to work at Toyota, and it's very smart how they kind of look at their processes and try to dissect it one by one. But let's park this model for a minute now, and we will circle back to it to create the link between this model and everything else that we are talking about in terms of thinking out of the box. As you know, perhaps all of us, we live in a box. Think about it. The home that we live in resembles a box. The car that we drive looks like a box. I mean, we saw the pictures before. The restaurant that we eat in is a box. And the office that we work in as well, or wherever it may be the case, is actually a box. So we all live in a box, and this is us inside of the box. And similar to the monkey and the cage experiment, we have a bunch of people around us that are living basically the same experience. And these people around us that are living the same experience and us, we are governed by a certain kind of rules and regulation, which we could call it tradition, we could call it culture, we could call it the rules of the country that we live in. And we have to navigate our life subsiding to these rules and regulation and being inside of the box. Now, similar to the lean thinking model, we have obstacles as well. Because if you think about it, in everything that we do in our life, there is a process. There is a process of the way we think. There is a process of the way we behave, our interaction, our activities, the way we do. Everything incorporate going from A to Z, or starting from step 1, 2, and 3. So we get to have also obstacles that get built up in this model. And I guess, Drasko, you would be the perfect person to speak further about that, to how we can create a link between the lean thinking model, which is the technical side, to us and our everyday life and our personal development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we talk about non-value add in the production side, it was something which is unnecessary to do or to have in a production. And we thought about in this case about non-value add as community or activities. If we talk about community, it's about the people who are surrounded us, which are not helping us to grow. they are just preventing us from growing, you know. So it's something along the line this. Activities could be something, for example, playing video games instead of educating yourself, right? So these are some kind of examples of non-value add examples. On the other side, we have inflexibility. And here it is about rigid mindset, resisting change, ability to change perspectives in terms to solve problems. And instead, some of people, with a rigid mindset, they become this victim mentality as well. So even getting worse. And the last but not least is variability. And here we have the thing about inconsistency, lack of discipline, lack of focus. For example, a good example of this today is in this Corona times, we cannot go to the gym. So should we stop with our program and not maintaining our body weight and being inconsistent on this, not thinking about other solutions, for example, doing push-ups at home. And these are some examples about what we talk about obstacles in terms of this.
No, it's very interesting. I mean, with the community, I've always spoke about you are the average of the closest 5 people that you have around you. I mean, we are the average of the closest 5 people that you have around you. Their, you know, their behavior, the way they think, the way they act, the way they, you know, look at the outlook on life and so on. I think there's a lot of influence there. Totally. So with all these aspects that we have between us being in here and surrounded by the herd and living inside of the box and having all these obstacles, basically what's going to happen is that we are going to we are going to be clouded, and all of us have desires and aspiration, perhaps a desire to have a kind of a dream job, or work on a relationship, or even to travel, or becoming an international person, which was my experience. But as we are surrounded by all these obstacles, like I mentioned, and all these factors that we have, we're gonna be also surrounded by a cloud, and we won't be able to connect properly to that vision that we have for us to achieve these aspirations. But I just wanna say here that you might be wondering why we are talking about, basically uncertainty, and why we are talking about thinking out of the box. I could tell you, you know, about myself with my experience with that. I have started my life in a war-ridden country where I have fear. This is obviously sandbags you can see behind me. I was, you know, experiencing fear running through my veins since a younger age. And I had to learn how to deal with fear and how to manage fear. And I had to learn, obviously, how to survive and have more appreciation for life. I worked my way up, and I had this aspiration in my home country where I wanted to become an international person. So I managed to get myself a student visa to move to Australia as a student. But there was a lot of uncertainty there, because I'm moving from my comfort home, or from my, you know, place where I know everything and anything, to somewhere where I don't know what it is, even though it's a better quality living, but still I'm gonna be by myself, and I'm gonna try to make it in whether it's gonna happen or not. So I moved there as a student, and I fell in love with the country. And basically what happened is that I wanted to stay in the country, but it was not possible. So I ended up planning to stay there, and I wanted to really kind of make it happen. So thinking out of the box, I end up sourcing myself a trade that was in demand by the immigration authority, and that trade was a cook. So going from, you know, being an MBA student, graduating as an MBA student, to you know, working to become a cook, and I did that for a couple of years, and that enabled me actually to stay in the country. From there, I worked my way up in my corporate ladder, and I wanted to become an international person. and I managed to secure a role and get out of Australia and start my journey with Louis Vuitton for 10 years in 3 countries. And eventually I achieved my dream to become an international person, and I ended up living in 5 countries in my life. And recently I was the CFO for Louis Vuitton, as George mentioned, in Brazil. And now I have this aspiration that I want to become an entrepreneur. So I'm, again, taking the leap of faith and taking the risk for me to jump ships and let go of my duties of a CFO and start as an entrepreneur. So, so that's a bit about me and how can I be linked to the uncertainty and thinking out of the box.
And I can confirm his skills as a cook. So I already had this experience. It was very nice. Yeah, I didn't have this, let's say, growing up like you in a work-doing country. I grew up in Germany, born in Germany, but my parents are coming from former Yugoslavia, so that's the reason why my name doesn't sound very German. Yeah, and if people ask me what I'm really, I'm always depending. It's like, is it like where my parents are from or where I'm born? I started my career totally different, behind an assembly line and assembling engines for Mercedes-Benz. And it was back in the days, my surrounding people I know before, everybody was the same. So we ended up, almost everybody in my inner circle, doing a job in a production line. It was good paid, everything was fine. But I had the inspiration, I won't do this the whole life. I'm capable to do something better. But it's not easy to get out of this assembly line and to get a white-collar job. So I was trying to find, how can I get there out? And finally, I made my way up and I changed to this consultant role where I'm right now. Meanwhile, I was like still working for Mercedes-Benz. I was doing projects and trainings all over the world for the company. Meanwhile, I was like in 20 factories on 3 different continents. And yeah, I think a very interesting part of my career, and a lot of met different people. That's why I met Laurent in Sao Bernardo. This is Sao Paulo. This is how we connected, basically.
Yeah. So we just wanted to share that, to give you a bit of an outlook on where we come from and our experience with dealing with uncertainty and thinking out of the box, and how we were able to kind of navigate our life journey like that. But now if we go back to that box that we were talking about, you know, as we navigate our life journey and we are surrounded by the herd, and we have the, you know, all these obstacles that we were talking about, basically we start building a negative belief system, and that negative belief system eventually lead into fear and demotivation and pain, obviously. Now, examples of negative belief system, and I'm sure that a lot can relate to that, is the belief that we are not worthy of success, or we are not good enough, or you are an imposter in what you do, in terms of you're not qualified enough to lead a project or to have this particular job, and so on. And if we are, you know, impacted by all these factors that we are talking about, we're gonna start to drift away from the aspiration that we have, and what Drasko have mentioned in his model, that North Star inside the lean model. So the best version of us, the better life that we want to have, we won't be able to reach to that because of all these factors that we are surrounded with, unfortunately. And we get to, with this case, focus more on the risks and what we may lose versus the reward, basically. And that's how the scale will be tipped more towards the risk, basically. So if I want to be naming the problem here, what would be the problem? The problem basically is that as long as we are inside of the box and we are surrounded by all these factors, we won't be able to connect to our aspiration in our life. And that will disable us from thinking, especially with these obstacles, thinking clearly, having a clear vision, developing ourselves, and having creativity and innovation, basically. So eventually, what ends up happening is that we get stuck between the fear and between our desire, which is achieving that better state of us. And that is basically the problem. Now, if you recall, everyone, we have sent a questionnaire to share with you. And in this questionnaire, we have asked 5 questions. And the reason we have brought these questions up is because of the situation with the corona that we are going through right now, because companies and everyone, more than ever, they are rethinking about their business model. As we speak right now, most companies are rethinking about their business model, about how they want to operate. We might have a new normal after this corona situation, this corona crisis. So maybe it's interesting for everyone to rethink the way we live, rethink our responsibilities in life, rethink about our community and our responsibility towards them, and so on. And just for the people that haven't answered the question, haven't seen the question, the first one was related to, do I live a life on my own terms, or other people's term, or respecting other people's decision? Do I live? Do I have spend time more with loved ones, or do I spend more time at work rather than non-work related topics? Do I take more calculated risk in my life? And is the opinion of people is very important about me, is very important to me? And the reason I have mentioned all of these, and you can see the results here, is I wanted to tell a story. And the story is about a nurse that is actually, she's an Australian nurse, and she was living in Queensland, the north of Australia, and she was working in a nursing home where she was caring for the elder and the people that are dying. She did that for 25 years, a little bit more than 25 years. And she ended up gathering all the regrets of the people that are dying. And she wrote a book. It's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And in this top 5 regret of the dying, the number one regret that people had there was, I wish if I have lived a life on my own term. I wish if I had lived a life on my own term. This is gathering 25 years worth of information from people that are dying, basically. The second regret, I wish if I have taken more risk in my life. And the third one, I wish if I have spent more time with loved ones. And obviously the fifth one, the fourth one is, I wish if I have worked less. And the fifth one, I wish if I have, connected more to my feelings and be more truthful to my feelings in life, so to speak. So here, I want to invite you to have this vision with me and think about, yourself at the older age, and whether you're looking at yourself in the mirror, or even you are laying down on your deathbed. So imagine that you are laying down on your deathbed, and you are surrounded by the people that you love, the people that you care about. And all of a sudden, you have the ghosts of your dreams, of your talents, of your masterpiece that you would create, the genius that you would have surrounding you. And they are looking down at you with anger. And they're telling you, we came to you several times in this life, but you never brought us to life. And now we are here, and we're gonna die with you, and we're never gonna come to life, so to speak. So I'm sharing this story, obviously, because it's a powerful story. It's a powerful book, 5 Regrets of the Dying, but it's a powerful insight where you have to think about these answers that you have given for these questions, and it gets you to reflect back on your life, because these questions are exactly the top 5 regrets of the dying. So when you look at these questions, you have already almost a document that tell you the future version of you. What are they going to say about these answers, basically? So if you can show the answers again, Drasko, for the participants. So once more, whether half of the people are saying that they are living life on their own terms, where the other half, they're not, they didn't answer the same. So I think it's worthwhile reflecting on that and thinking what would be the answer starting from this space that we are in the corona. So basically, back to the box that we were talking about, and everyone is familiar with this model now. We are living in that box again and surrounding with all these conditions, and we are focusing more on the risk rather than the basically the reward. And the only way for us to get out of the box is to start by eliminating the obstacles, exactly like what has been done with the lean thinking model, is to eliminate the actual obstacles. And that's how you're going to start having a kind of a frame of mind that will enable you to get out of the box, that will enable you to start, launching yourself out of the box. And that frame of mind will eventually get you to create a blueprint, a way of thinking, and that blueprint will constitute basically a ladder that will be introduced into the box. Because the only way that you will be able to get out of the box is to have that way of thinking and introduce that ladder in order for you to reach to your aspiration. And this is how you start focusing more on the rewards rather than the risk in your life, basically. Now, the question is, how do we eliminate these obstacles? And who would be better than the lean thinking expert to talk about how can we eliminate these obstacles?
Yeah, just let me add about the scale something from my side. I realized often in my life that I was when it's coming to a decision, making a decision, a life decision, I was focusing on risks and I didn't start to think about the rewards. So I already stopped by thinking about the risks. And this is what we are trying to tell you here is try to think also on the rewards and not only on the risk. Risk is good to prevent you to do something stupid, but the rewards can give you and open your eyes and to see what can you do in order to reach North Star. So yeah, Lauren said about the ladder, and this is why we have the ladder in our front slide. This ladder is a kind of symbol to get you out of the box, a thought process. And the first step on the ladder is awareness of the box. Why are you in the box? What makes you unique to get you out of the box? And then we have our 3 obstacles. Remember from the lean model, is variability, inflexibility, and non-value add. And now imagine if we could, like in the lean model, turn to our North Star to turn variability into consistency. And I know Lauren is really, really good in this consistency, and I think he has a really good example of this.
Yeah, well, we always spoke about that, and I always try to get you to experience that, which is the discipline, basically. So here we're talking about, a kind of working on your discipline and staying focused. And the reason consistency is important is that if you want to be working on a specific vision, you need to research it, you need to do whatever you have. So you need to establish a proper discipline and for you to stay focused towards achieving that vision. And the one exercise that I do as a tool that enable me to kind of consistently stay focused and have that discipline is working on the 30-day challenge. They say it takes 21 days for a person to create a habit. And I end up doing a 30-day challenge, which there is abundance of examples of what could be a 30-day challenge on the web, where you can actually choose one and take it on your own and make it a habit for you. And in this way, you are building the muscle of discipline in your mind.
And the second step is flexible mindset. And from my end, I remember back in the days when I started my role here as a consultant, I was asked to do a training on the East Coast, on the West Coast in the United States in Portland. And I said yes without any hesitation, although I know it's going to be tough. I never did a training before. I never did a training in English. I was never in the United States. I need to do a training in 6 days, which was the concept was for 10 days, so it needs to be on a reduced time. So it is going to be really tough. So I started immediately, instead of giving up, trying to find a way, how can I improve my English? So I started to listen to podcasts, listen to TED Talks, reading books in English, just to improve my English. Also talking with people who already did trainings to find how can I do trainings. If you ask me today, was it successful? I'm still sorry for the guys who experienced this first training, but under these circumstances, it was a good one, and it was a begin of a really great training. What I gave later today, and yeah, it was something which was really something that makes me changing the perspective. Instead of giving up, trying to find a way, how can I improve myself to get to the point where I wanted to be? Because if I deny this training on these days, maybe I would not be here today with you. And the last step on the ladder, not the last step, but the last step about from our obstacle is value add activities. We will come in a minute to this one, because we will share with you a tool. Before we share this tool, there is something which is very important on all this ladder. I mean, among all this, how to turn these obstacles into strengths, is to check your progress, to adjust your way, because this way is not a straightforward way. This way has roadblocks, and you need to adjust it every day. But you can only do it if you have your focus, your consistency, and your flexibility in your mind, and know what are your non-value add activities. And let's go to the non-value add activities and see.
So yeah, with the non-value add activities and the social environment, as we said, you are the average of the 5 people that are closest to you. So it's straightforward that you need to have the quality people, obviously, in your life that will be able to help you and get your point in terms of where you want to be getting in your life, what's your aspiration, and what is the North Star. In terms of the value add activities, we're going to be sharing with you a tool here where it's like a mapping tool, where it's going to enable you to identify the tasks that you have on daily basis. What would be urgent, what would be non-urgent, what would be important, what would be not important. And this kind of a mapping tool will enable you to understand where do you spend most of your day, what do you spend, where do you spend most of your day, in which box basically. And the research have shown, ladies and gentlemen, that people get to spend most of their time in the urgent and, in these two. And obviously, the remaining of the time, they spend it in here. And people get to spend very little time in this space over here. So unfortunately, for the growth happen in this box, where this is where you start researching, reading books, attending courses, working towards the aspiration that you want to have. And for this to happen, you need to raise your standards, ladies and gentlemen. You need to start having a consistent approach with the discipline. You need to have, you need to be flexible to start changing your agenda and the way you operate. And with the value add, obviously, consistently looking at what you are doing every day, and how can that turn into a more value add activities, which is to people is not urgent, but it is important. And obviously try to spend less time over here. They say, unfortunately, it is what it is. 90% or 85 to 90% of the people who have free time, they spend their time over here. 85% to 90% of the people that have free time, they spend their time over here and not over here. So it's gonna tell you something about, how we are in our life, and how can we constantly be in that herd and in that box and everything that we spoke about earlier. Any comments there, Drasko, from your end?
Yeah, I mean, very important to understand that the ladder is the way out of the box. The ladder is the thinking process out of the box and overcoming the uncertainty which is surrounding your box. And sometimes it feels really good in the box. It's a kind of comfort zone we created for ourselves, although we know there is something better or can be something better. But think of the scale. Don't think only on the risks, think on the rewards. And I think then you really can make the step-by-step, the continuously upwards to reach your North Star, to define what is your North Star.
And if we stay on this slide for a second, this is, I mean, exactly what you said. Having that framework or way of thinking, which is going to be creating that blueprint. So this is going to be the blueprint, including being aware of the box. This is going to be the blueprint that's going to enable you for you to achieve your desired outcome or achieve your aspiration in life, and obviously get to that star that we all were talking about before. So I think one thing I want to say that for every single one of these, we actually have a lot more tools, but for the sake of, and even that one, but for the sake of the time, we are only sharing one tool with you today, which is obviously the urgent, non-urgent, important, non-important, but we're gonna have other chance to actually share with you more tools for every single one of these, and they are all predominantly based on that lean model, right? So just to kind of, we are near our conclusion here, and I wanted to first thank everyone, obviously, for their time, but I wanted to first ask everyone the question, do you know, they say that the cemetery, in fact, is the most expensive real estate on earth. Did you know that, Dasko?
Yeah, I think you told me once, but I didn't get the whole story. But I think share it.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a metaphor here where they say, back to the story that I was talking about before with the nurse, people's dreams, ladies and gentlemen, people's aspiration, people's genius, people's talents and masterpieces, they are all buried in there. And a lot of us, went, not a lot of us, I mean, a lot of us living our life without even bringing these up to life, because we are spending most of our time in the not important, but not urgent and not important space, so to speak, unfortunately, and not really looking into eliminating the obstacles that we have in our life. So my urge to you and my ask to you today is, if you can use the tool that we have shared with you today, which is the urgent, not urgent, important, not important tool, in order for you to come up with a mapping for your activities per day. And in fact, if you can just show the tool again, Drasko, please. So yeah, that tool again, if we can, work on that tool, and Drasko and I would be more than happy to connect with you. In fact, we're gonna be offering for the first 5 people who's gonna be contacting us via email, if you can just scan the barcode here, it will get you directly to our email, and send us a message, and we'll be more than happy to work with the first 5 people that would email us to give them, tips and mentoring on how to actually use that tool. And other than that, what else I can say to you? Please connect with us. These are the barcodes for our social media, and we will be conducting, in fact, another webinar on the 28th of April related to the topic that we were talking about. In fact, we're going to be tackling on more the tools and unpacking the tools, speaking more on the how could you tackle your negative belief system, as well as more topics related to dealing with fear. So with that, I would like again to welcome everyone here and thank you everyone for your participation. I hope that you get the value out of that and the learning, the necessary learning. And Drasko, over to you.
Yeah, also from my side, thank you very much. It was very nice to work also with Laurent here on this topic, and yeah, hopefully see you on the 28th.
So with that said, maybe we can hand it over to Professor George for questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Laurent and Drasko. It was great, and I've seen other presentations by Laurent, right? And it's very interesting, right? So I hope to have a continuation of this. I remember once you talked about how one can actually move to the reward side, like Drasko was saying, but without, you know, without relinquishing or without not thinking about the risks. Also, some educated progress, not jumping or not diving blindly into an unknown future. You may, as you said, you can monitor your progress and you can prepare your way. And I think that's one of the questions we have here. So let me go to the chat, right? Let me open the chat here. One of the questions was actually about by Mayara, right? When she says, what were the biggest difficulties for each of you and how did you find your way?
Right, so I can start with that here. The first thing that comes to my mind, that obviously we're going to be thinking about milestones here. What's the first instant that comes to my mind is the biggest milestone that I had is when I moved from Lebanon to Australia, and I ended up wanting to stay in Australia, and I wanted to become a cook. So back to the topic of the MBA, imagine you're an MBA graduate and you are ready to conquer the world with your aspiration, with your desire and everything that you want to achieve in your life, and all of a sudden you made a decision that you want to move away from that, and you don't know if this is going to be working or not. You are playing, obviously, with the risk, with the massive risk. So it's going to be 2 years out of your life and a lot of money, and you don't know if this is going to actually become a reality or not. But the fact and the matter that on the other side of that, I will be returning back to a place where I felt that I don't want to be there anymore because it's not going to be, honoring my aspiration in life to become an international person. It was worth it for me to take that risk. So when you get, and this is something I spoke about in the previous seminar that I've done with you, when the pain is so impactful, when the burning sensation from the pain inside of you is so impactful, you will be able to actually cross the line of fear and get to that transformation that you're going to be experiencing.
Would you like to say something?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was. I think I didn't mention that point in the presentation when I was talking about when I was beginning in the assembly line for Mercedes. The transition from the blue collar to the white collar without having a university degree was something which I was like, I was like scared about this, because I was thinking these people who are I need to compete are all like something else. So I was like feeling that I'm not worthy to do the same job as them. But then I was trying to find out what makes me unique, as Laurent said. What is my contribution to this? And in case of doing lean projects and optimization projects, the experience I had as somebody who came from the assembly line, who know the people, who know how the people think, I realized that this is my biggest having on my value, what I have, and I transferred this in something, in a strength, what I'm using also today. So I would never change this experience for anything else, because this is something unique what I have in my job today, and I can really participate still from this.
Okay, we have another question here, more about the personal experience of Laurent. So how did Laurent start at Louis Vuitton? Did you start already as the CFO?
No, actually. I started as a financial controller, regional financial controller in Dubai, in charge of the Middle East region. It was 7 countries at the time, and it was based in Dubai. And from there, I moved to North America, to California, as a senior financial controller. So I stayed in Dubai for 4 years, in North America for like a year and a half, and in Brazil for 4 years and a half, basically, which were the best years of my life, obviously. So, so yeah, when I moved to Brazil, this is when I got the CFO position.
Now we have a question by Juliana. I'm going to read the question. I think that now, because of the COVID-19 coronavirus, we're living in uncertain times. We don't know how society, us as humans, and the companies will become after the crisis. However, if we are flexible, have a flexible mindset and focus in our dreams, we can overcome this and become better. How both of you are dealing with this uncertainty right now?
Yeah, no, it's I will jump in, and maybe Dusko can support with his idea, if I may. So basically, like everyone else, ladies and gentlemen, we all had plans, right, for the year. So you can. I saw this funny picture someone shared with me. Is that in 2021, someone was asking someone in an interview, "What did you do in 2020?" And the answer was, "I was washing my hands." You know, so basically, all of our plans have changed. All of our expectation have been abolished. So the question here is, how do you learn to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable? I'm confident none of us in this webinar is feeling super confident and comfortable staying at home. But the biggest learning, similar to what we said in the box, being aware of the box, the biggest learning for us here is to start to learn how to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable. So how we are dealing with that is, you know, similar to what I said before, we need to move to the digital world. We need to think about new way of thinking, new way of operating, and how we are going to build our business or our model based on the digital world. And in fact, me thinking as an entrepreneur, the business idea that I initially had, which is more than one business idea that I had, all of them are online, which complements where the world is right now and where we are heading in this world. And you will see that the reliance after coronavirus is going to be a lot on the digital world, basically.
Yeah, just quickly to add. So from my side, I think right now we don't know how long does this take, and so it's really uncertain, and it's not easy for anybody to predict what is going on. But I use the time to develop myself, to read books, to listen to things where I didn't have the time before because I was so busy. So now I have the time to do all the things I moving in front of me, and I didn't have the time and took the time for them. So that's what I'm dealing with. So and just waiting to the right moment to utilize this new knowledge, what I'm gaining right now and the experience, and maybe to turn it something different later on. Yeah, I'm just.
It's interesting what you said, because if you go back to that model, we are, you know, you're talking about spending more time in the important but not urgent space. So in the important, not urgent space, basically, which is where the growth happens.
Right. Yes. We have a question by Virginia. She asks us how to deal with high risks and fears in the Brazilian context. How to be innovative and risk taker in such a hostile environment.
Obviously, that's going to be part of our next webinar, which I hope that you're going to be joining us on the 28th, obviously, if you connect with us on the social media. But I guess it's a big obviously question, and it's very wide and it's very interesting. But I guess the only thing I want to say right now, you can only have control over certain things in life. And the thing that you do have control over right now is the action that you take. So if we go back to the basics, and if you look at the model that we have shared with you, and if you look at, when we are eliminating all the non-value add activities. So if you start by working on yourself, carve your own statue in life, so to speak, and develop these skills that we all need, and you need it when the time is right for you to start using this innovation. And there was this recent documentary that I watched from a neuroscientist, and he was saying that the way people should be stimulating their innovation, their creativity, is by incorporating in their brain activities that they have not come across before. So similar to what Drasko was saying, there could be a hobby, there could be something that you want to deal with, even though it wasn't a priority before, maybe it is a priority now. And the reason I'm saying take on this hobby right now is not because it's going to help you to move out from the risk and everything, but it's going to enable to activate a new part of your brain, which will help you to think about innovation more and think about creativity more. Now, in terms of dealing with risk and so on, that is certainly would be part of the next webinar that we're going to be having.
Drasko, would you like to say something about the resilient contacts and the risks? Or?
I mean, I'm now since 5 years coming back and forth to Brazil, and I'm still believing that South America at whole, especially Brazil, has a great future. It's just we're waiting for the trigger that it starts, and yeah, that's what I believe in, and I'm strongly believing in this, that this is like something which needs to be there as a huge potential in people, in innovation, and yeah, it will come.
Right. And Arthur asked about your own personal successful experience, and whether do you believe that presidents and governors in the world, they could use this decision matrix, right, in times like this, and also as a long-term vision?
Well, I think it's a great way to start. I think it's a great way to start. In fact, I'm curious, what do you think about that, Professor Jorge?
Well, I think that what's urgent for some people and important is totally different, right? So politicians have a different agenda, right? We see that this in Brazil, we saw that in the UK, we saw that in other countries, right? So they are pursuing their own goals, long-term goals, and they are sacrificing possibly the goals of most of us, right?
Yes.
Well, it's difficult, right? But they definitely, a lot of them think out of the box, and they take very risky projects. Some of them fall prey of their own risky project, and they die, or they die politically. For some of them, it pays to take risks.
Yes, no, absolutely. So I am completely in line with you on what you're saying, and I guess whatever the politics and the governing body is doing is what we spoke about, which is that that program that has been created to contain and to govern that box. And for us, we gotta have to follow what we believe is the right thing for us to do, and what we believe is the right thing for us to focus on. But certainly the ethical governments that we have and the ethical politicians that we have out there, if they follow when they follow this model, will be certainly in a better place when it comes to decision making.
Yeah. And I think it's worth to share here. There is a tweet or something from Twitter. I don't remember from where I got it, or Lauren got it, and he shared with me is that after the recession in 2008, companies like Airbnb were born, WhatsApp was developed. So all these times where everybody thinks the world is like ending, it could be a great chance for somebody with a great idea to come up. And so use your time to think about being creative, talk to people, surround yourself with the people who are the right ones, and think about ideas, create something great.
Mhm. We have an interesting question here also. So Leon says that a lot of people will not want to go back to the office, right?
Right?
So they not only they are the office, but spending time commuting. So how many hours a year you spend commuting? So people will reflect about how ineffective our current system is, right? And so how can they really think out of the box and find a new way?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting topic. I was talking with one of my neighbors the last few days about this, working from home. What kind of equipment do you need if you don't have the possibility or a room for yourself? What kind of possibilities do you need to make working from home possible? So what kind of equipment, what kind of microphones, headphones, something where you can cover yourself and not get distributed by people around you and so on. So I was thinking on this way, you know, and then we came up to a kind of thing, oh, why we are not having something like Airbnb for home office? Yeah, it was just like a crazy idea, you know, but we will continue with this thought.
I was listening to this podcast with Freakonomics, and they gave interesting insight. They were saying that when they did a research from a behavioral economic standpoint, they did a research and turned out to be that the most dissatisfied part of people's job is the commute. So back to Leon's point, and I think he's totally right. The most dissatisfied part of people's job is the commute, that they go from back and forth to home. So what they were talking there is that, and I agree with them, and that's why I'm sharing it here, is that basically they're going to be some rethinking about, a lot of companies, they're going to be rethinking about their business model, as I mentioned before, and they're going to be rethinking about the hours or the days that people should be spending it in the office, because a lot of people, for fair reasons, they still believe that the physical personal interaction is important, but at the same time there need to be a balance. So being perhaps 100% in the office may not be the answer, and being 100% in the at home working from may also not be the answer, but having the balance between the two would be the answer. The other thing that I want to mention, which is also important, and I'm hearing it from my commercial circle, from my network, they were all talking about coming back to the landlords of the commercial offices or even stores and so on, and telling them that, look, I mean, stores is different, but obviously commercial offices, and telling them, look, we don't even know if we wanna stay in the office or we wanna operate in the office anymore, because if the business is working, in most cases, business as usual at home. So they might be rethinking about whether we want to have a long-term lease or a permanent lease, or instead of leasing, a block of time, leasing it for a certain period of time, or just rethinking the leasing model, so to speak. And I think this is a trend that's going to be coming out as well.
And that is very interesting. And actually, at the One MBA program, something we discuss with the students is how to manage your time and also how to manage your energy. Okay, and there are many, of course, there are a lot of tips, practical tips that you can employ, but a lot of them require a change in your habits. So what activities and which people should you dedicate your time and your mental energy? And in fact, One MBA students, they tell us that in the beginning, it's very hard because they have to, they are all working and they now are adding an academic activity with a very practical application, of course, but a lot of reading, a lot of reflections, a lot of global team assignments, right? And they say, how can I manage this and the family and so on? By the last 6 months of the program, they say, wow, it's fantastic. The load has not changed, but we have changed. So students learn how to cope with more responsibilities, and do more. And actually, it seems to them they're spending less energy because they learn how prioritize, how to delegate, how to monitor, and so on. So this is something, sometimes we think, oh, this is a too big step for me. But then if you learn new skills and new ways to deal with the new, let's say, challenges, actually it may become much easier than before. So Drasko said that you in the beginning with a blue collar, as a blue collar worker, you had a routine, right? But at some moment that it was too comfortable for you. But at the same time, it seemed impossible, almost impossible. How can I reach a totally, different position here? But I'm sure that now you feel that you control much more of your, let's say, what you want to do than before. Before you were led.
Right.
Now you can lead. It was not easy, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
And the
Not at all.
anguish, the fear, but the preparation is interesting. So we're going to discuss this preparation, right, in the next webinar, how you actually move from your comfort zone, but at the same time uncomfortable because you want to be somewhere else. How do you move to that somewhere else without, dying on the way, right? So if you give me, people here, just some 5 or 10 minutes to talk about the One MBA and how we can shape leaders for a new world. So I'll be very grateful, right? I'd like to thank Laurent and Vasco for being with us here and inviting them to be with us again soon. And of course, if you want to say it's a pleasure,